I made a video 2 weeks ago called Lucifer's Rebellion is Made Up. And it was pretty much a 50-50, let's see, 40 likes, 35 dislikes. That's pretty much down the middle. But the comments, my goodness, the comments were crazy. A lot of them said if I don't believe the Bible, I should stop making videos. All I said in the video was that it was made up and that the interpretation of Revelation doesn't exist. It's nowhere in the 66 books and the Apocrypha. It's just a misunderstanding by people who call themselves Christians. Just because you call yourself a Christian doesn't mean that you are one. And almost no two Christians share the same belief, just like Hebrew Israelites. Many of them who call themselves Christians don't understand the Bible. And you see comments like, I feel, and things like that. We can't go by what we feel when we read the Bible. We have to be able to prove it out. Otherwise, it is made up. If I go by what I feel and you go by what you feel, where can we ever agree? One of the commenters, and I'm going to read part of his comment, said, Lucifer's rebellion is not made up because we can read about it in Ezekiel 28:12-17. Lucifer was once a beautiful angel in the service of Elohim, and he rebelled and became Satan. I'm showing you the comments so you can read the whole thing if you choose. You can stop the video. He mentions Ezekiel 28 and Isaiah. Now, I'm just going to explain Ezekiel today because it doesn't say anything what he thinks it says. Ezekiel chapter 28, starting with verse 12. Son of man, take up a lamentation upon the king of Tyrus, and say unto him, Thus saith the Most High, Thou sealest up the sum, full of wisdom, perfect in beauty. Thou hast been in the garden of Eden of Elohim. Every precious stone was in thy covering, the sardius, the topaz, and the diamond, and the beryl, the onyx, and the jasper, the sapphire, the emerald, and the carbuncle, and the gold. The workmanship of tabrets and of pipes was prepared in thee in the day that thou wast created. Thou art the anointed cherub that covereth, and I have set thee so. That was upon the holy mountain of Elohim. Thou hast walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire. Thou wast perfect in thy ways from the first day that thou wast created, till iniquity was found in thee. By the multitude of thy merchandise have thou filled the midst of thee with violence, and thou hast sinned. Therefore I will cast thee as profane out of the mountain of Elohim, and I will destroy thee, O covering cherub, for the midst of the stones of fire. Thine heart was lifted up because of thy beauty. Thou hast corrupted thy wisdom by reason of thy brightness, and I will cast thee to the ground. I will lay thee before kings, that they may behold thee. He's saying that this is talking about Satan being the anointed cherub that was in the Garden of Eden that caused Adam and Eve to do whatever they did. So he was perfect in the beginning, but then he changed his nature. Many of you are going to see what you want to see, and you're going to say that that's exactly what it's saying. But we have to deal with the first part of what this said. Telling Ezekiel, son of man, take up a lamentation upon the king of Tyrus. This is talking about the king of Tyrus at that time. And the analogy that the Most High is saying is just all about how great he is. It's a reoccurring theme in the book of Ezekiel. This king of Tyrus was never in any Garden of Eden. If you read some of the chapters before this, like if you read Ezekiel chapter 28, verse 1, the word of the Most High came unto me, saying, Son of man, say unto the prince of Tyrus, Thus saith the Most High, because thy heart was lifted up, and thou hast said, I am God, and sit in the seat of God in the midst of the seas. Yet thou art a man, and not God. Thou hast set thine heart as the heart of God. Behold, thou art wiser than Daniel, and there is no secret that they can hide from thee. Yes, he thinks that he's a god, but what is he? A man. This is the same king of Tyrus. This guy is so smart. By his wisdom, he got riches. He is huge on the earth. And the Most High is saying, I'm going to bring you down. You were good in the beginning, but now you have turned. So I'm going to bring you down. The book of Ezekiel, like the book of Revelation, is full of analogies. So let's get more analogies so we can understand how, to read the book of Ezekiel. Ezekiel chapter 31, verse 1. And it came to pass in the 11th year, in the 3rd month, in the 1st day of the month, that the word of the Most High came unto me, saying, Son of man, speak unto Pharaoh king of Egypt, and to his multitude, whom art thou like in thy greatness? Behold, the Assyrian was a cedar in Lebanon, with fair branches, and with a shadowing shroud, and of high stature, and his top was among the thick boughs. And the cedars in the garden of Elohim could not hide him. The fir trees were not like his boughs, and the chestnut trees were not like his branches, nor any tree in the garden of Elohim was like unto him in beauty. I made him fair by the multitude of his branches, so that all the trees of Eden that were in the garden envied him. The king of Assyria was never in the garden. He wasn't in the garden either. It's just to show how great this king of Assyria was. The Most High in Ezekiel chapter 31 is telling Pharaoh, king of Egypt, how great the king of Assyria was, and the Most High brought him down. It uses analogy. The trees in the garden, in other words, the men, trees are men. If you didn't understand that analogy, trees are men. Great men are tall trees. So when it says that the trees in the Garden of Eden could not hide him, means that he was taller, bigger, stronger. I'm not talking about in actual stature. I'm talking about in greatness. This Pharaoh had become great, but he wasn't as great as the king of Assyria. This king of Assyria had become, if you read about the Assyrian conquests, they took over all the land. They destroyed kingdom after kingdom. But in verse 10, therefore thus saith Elohim, because thou hast filled up thyself in the height, and he has shot up his top among the thick boughs, and his heart is lifted up in height. I have therefore delivered him into the hand of the mighty one of the heathen. He shall surely deal with him. I have driven him out for his wickedness. And the strangers, the terrible of the nations, have cut him off, and have left him on the mountains, and in all the valleys, and his branches are fallen. His boughs are broken by all the rivers of the land, and all the people of the earth are gone down from his shadow, and have left him. This is all analogy. Trees, the Most High is perfect in his speech. We have a butchered up version of the Bible. His analogies are beautiful. Now, some of these analogies we don't understand because we no longer farm. You know, we look at concrete buildings now. We see those things as great lights and concrete buildings. But back then, they would have understood these analogies much better. And this is who this is written to. And so when you read this, you have to get into character. You have to go back and look at what the time was then and how these analogies would have been so vivid to the people who were alive back then. Let's read one more analogy just to hammer this home so that we can understand how to read Ezekiel, how to read Revelation. Ezekiel chapter 19, verse 1. Moreover, take up a lamentation for the princes of Israel. In Ezekiel 28, it says, take up a lamentation for the king of Tyrus. The Most High says, take up a lamentation, means he's about to bring you down. Take up a lamentation for the princes of Israel, and say, what is thy mother? A lioness. She lay down among the lions, and she nourished her whelps among the lions. And she brought up her whelps, and it became a young lion. It learned to catch the prey. It devoured men. Now, Israel is not a lion. He's comparing Israel to a lion. Just like the king of Syria is not a tree. Just like the king of Tyrus is not a cherub. Just to make sure you understand how great he was. Verse 4, the nations also heard of him. He was taken in their pit, and they brought him with chains into the land of Egypt. Now we understand this is an analogy about Israel going into captivity in Egypt. Verse 5, and when they saw that she had waited and her hope was lost, then she took another one of her whelps and made a young lion. And he went up and down among the lions. He became a young lion, and he learned to catch the prey and devoured men. He knew their desolate places. He laid waste their cities, and the land was desolate, and the fullness thereof by the noise of his roarings. Then the nations set against him on every side from the provinces, and spread their net over him, and he was taken in their pit, or their jail. And they put him in ward and chains, and brought him to the king of Babylon. And they brought him in holes, that his voice should no more be heard on the mountains of Israel. This whole thing here is another analogy of the story of Israel. Like the two witnesses is an analogy of the story of Israel. Ezekiel chapter 31 is about the analogy of the king of Assyria, and 28 is about the king of Tyrus. These are all leaders of these groups of people. And when the Most High sees something good in you, he will raise you up. But then when iniquity is found, he has to bring you down. To sum this all up, Ezekiel is Revelation in the Old Testament. When you read the Bible, the visions that John saw and the visions that Ezekiel saw were very similar. Scary visions that they saw. When you read it, you have to understand they're just analogies. The beast, the two witnesses, the angel, the woman clothed with the stars and the moon, these are all analogies. And you can't go in and out saying this is literal and then this is analogy. When you read the Bible, remain consistent. There was no Lucifer rebellion, not in this Bible that we read. This is all about men and people, and the Most High has to deal with them at some level, whenever time he chooses. That's it for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.